Defending Israel with David Harris is made possible in part by Barbara and Bob Goodkind, the Paul and Lynn Light Family Foundation, To Life, to Love, the Patricia Worthen Ullman Foundation.
Hello JBS viewers, I'm David Harris and welcome back to Defending Israel. I'm particularly excited about this week's guest, and rather than introduce him for him, I'd rather he introduce himself because I'm afraid I might shortchange an absolutely remarkable biography. His name is Simon Deng. Simon, welcome to Defending Israel.
Thank you, David, for having me today, and thank you for having me for JBS.
So let's begin for those JBS viewers who may not have met you before or heard you before. I promise them an extraordinary background. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Originally, I'm from Sudan, now is Southern Sudan, because most people know Sudan as one country. Unfortunately, Sudan is no longer one country. Sudan is now two countries. We have Southern Sudan who that got independent from the Northern Sudan in 2011 for the simple reason that of the atrocity that being committed on the Christian Southern Sudanese by the Northern Sudanese Arabs in Sudan, where 4 million of Southern Sudanese was slaughtered. Hundreds and thousands of Southern Sudanese kids was taken into the slavery. So these are the very reasons where the Southern Sudanese, they felt that the enslavement and brutalization and demonization has been put behind, but it's still being practiced in Southern Sudan, and that's why they resist the atrocity being imposed on them by the government, and they fought and they got their independence from Islamic government of Sudan.
So you used the word slavery, child slavery. You, in fact, were one of those child slaves at the age of 9?
Unfortunately, slavery, it is not something that any human being can be proud to call himself as a slave. But the reality of the facts that in Southern Sudan, there are hundreds of thousands Southern Sudanese was taken by the Northern Sudanese as a slave. And unfortunately, I happen to be one, and a lucky one to be here with you today. Yes, I was a slave in Sudan.
So you were a slave of an Arab Muslim family?
I was kidnapped from the Southern Sudan when I was 9 years old, brought to the Northern Sudan by kidnappers, and I was given away by him to his relative as a gift. A gift that sometimes we, the human being, and we know, as we know, it doesn't include the human being. It is something you have to buy to please somebody that you admire as a gift. But in Sudan, a gift includes human being that happen to be African kids and black kids.
And you were in this terrible ordeal for some 3 years?
I was being held as a slave for 3.5 years of my life as a slave, yes.
How were you able to get away?
What happened was in the village where I was being held as a slave, the village of Fashishoya in Northern Sudan, a suburb of the city of Kosti, for some of the Sudanese who knows what I'm talking about. In that village, they don't have the junior high school. They have elementary schools. Luckily that the parents or my slave masters, their son have to go to the junior high school. So they have to move from the village of Fashishoya into the big city of Kosti, where the high school is. And it was in Kosti where I come across the three gentlemen, the Shilluk fellows, who happened to have the Shilluk tribal marks in their forehead like what I have today. At that time, I didn't have those tribal marks in my forehead. So when I saw them, to me that the sons came from nowhere, because I could not imagine to see people carrying the tribal marks that identified my identity as a Shilluk. So I went to those gentlemen to tell them who I am, my names, my dad name, my relative names, my village, just to convince them, since I don't have anything to identify myself to them as a Shuluk. All I have is the word of mouth. And one of them said to me that, yes, we understand what you're telling us, but we came from another Shuluks. But you came from further southern Shuluk. There is no way where we know your mom and your dad, but we know the village that you mentioned to us. I felt very disappointed. I felt that probably I didn't explain myself to them properly. And the other one put his arm on my shoulder because the tears was running in my eyes because I got disappointed. And he promised me that, yes, they understand exactly what I told them, but they know somebody from the area where they stay who came from the village that I mentioned to them. And according to them, they said they will go and talk to that individual. Probably that person will be the person who will knows me if what I was telling them as a truth. It is exactly the following days we met in the same location where they promised me to be in that place, and they came with the person that I knew back home. To me, it was one of the happiness after 3.5 years. For that gentleman, he broke down in tears because he could not believe his eye to see a child which is being considered as a dead child. Because what happened was my dad and my parent put an offer 10 cow to any person who will come and tell them about their lost son. And that person
a kind of reward.
The reward, yes.
But Simon, wait a second. I mean, we're talking about modern day slavery. We're talking not just about your situation, but you said thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, who, as you said, were from South Sudan, who were black African,
yes,
who were taken involuntarily, and who were being held as slaves in the Arab Muslim north of Sudan. Why is this not on the front page of every newspaper? Why is this not the lead story of the BBC each and every day? Why do so many people not even know about this story?
David, people have to understand that those who being slaves that happen to be black, those who happen to be slave masters happen to be Arabs. So who will have in the media a gut to stand up and mention something being done by an Arab persons? Because if you do so, you will be labeled as somebody is against the Arab, especially when that person happened to be a Muslim, enslaving a black child. Who are you to call? Then you will be labeled as the Islamophobia, against Islam, and the religion being mixed, which is itself is a myth. The reason I said that because until recently, there are two countries in the continent of Africa where everybody knows, the government knows. I'm talking about the country of Sudan and the country of Mauritania. These two countries, the media is familiar, but again, when something being done by an Arab, who want to go there? Because the slavery being known by those who talk about the slavery is just by the European and so on, without even looking back, who is the mastermind of the slaves in Africa? It was the Arabs, and it was still being practiced even until today in the country of Sudan and Mauritania.
You have spent a good part of your life since you were able to leave. You came to the United States, you started a new life here. You've led protests, you've led 100-mile marches, and yet you still don't feel that the issue has been captured for the reasons you mentioned. I mean, there's certainly a lot of attention toward racism against black people in the United States, in Europe, around the world. Are you saying that the fear of the Arab and Muslim world is stronger than the focus and concern about enslavement of black people?
Absolutely, absolutely. We went heaven and earth even to let everybody in this country aware of the slavery in Sudan and Mauritania. Even here in New York, about 20 years ago, we, the Southern Sudanese, we organized, and every single person from Mauritania and in Sudan, in southern Sudan, we came and marched out here on 42nd, all the way to the Sudanese embassy and then the Mauritanian embassy in New York. But did the media wasn't there? No, not even that.
The media did not cover it.
No, not even that. Recently, when Libya was having an auctions by its auction on the slaves of the Africans whom are immigrants using through Libyan channel to come to Europe. And then it was being used as a slave, and there was being as a market.
As a slave auction, you
yes,
said.
in Libya. Recently, thousands of Africans, not only in Mauritania and Sudan alone, but thousands of Africans here in diaspora. We were in front of the Libyan embassy. Thousands of us, we all from the continent of Africa. Did we have a single media there? No. Why? Because somebody who is enslaving the black African happened to be a lucky person, an Arab person, then who will have, in the media, have a gut to stand up and tell the truth. Even leave out the historical of the slavery, and then we are not going back to history. We're talking about the modern day slavery, which is taking place today at the time when we assume that after the emancipation proclamations, slavery became the history of the past. Mm-hmm. But in the reality of some other individual in the continent, especially in North Africa and West Africa, which happened, Mauritania is a country of them, slavery still exists.
And Mauritania is also considered an Arab country.
Yes, they call themselves an Arab country in African country. But this is all the myth.
So Simon, let's connect that story with, I see you're wearing a Star of David. I see you're wearing a t-shirt that says "Bring them home now," referring to the hostages. I see you wearing a yellow ribbon. So connect for JBS viewers your story of being an enslaved child taken to northern Sudan, your ability eventually to leave, come to the United States, your focus on the plight of slavery, and now your amazing open support for the state of Israel, which is not new. You've been to Israel more than a dozen times, I understand. Connect the two pieces, because I think there are connections, aren't there?
There's a big connection, David, because slavery didn't start by me. The Jewish community was enslaved in Egypt by Pharaoh. Not even that. When Southern Sudanese was being slaughtered by Arab, the entire Arab continent gang on people who have no means to defend themselves. The only country in the world at that time, under the leadership of Golda Meir, it was the state of Israel.
That showed support for
who came and support the people of Southern Sudan to defend themselves.
Who are principally Christian,
purely Christian.
Black, and sometimes animist.
You see the word animist, I don't agree with it because everybody have a belief in something. But these are the few African black, majority of them Christians. And those who doesn't practice the religions of Christianity because the church never reached to where they are, they believe in their own way of life in Africa, which is understandable, should be understandable by anything.
But the point being that Israel was the one country that showed concern.
Israel was the only one country.
And this goes back to the 1970s, Golda Meir.
Goes back to, yes, during the Golda Meir. When the Southern Sudanese was being slaughtered, they don't have anything to defend themselves. All they have to use is use the spear as their weapon to defend themselves by rejecting what being imposed on them by the government of Sudan, which is Arabization and Islamization and enslavement. These are the two things was being imposed, and these are the two things which led Southern Sudan to be as a country today. Simply because their own people, 4 million of them, was slaughtered by the government of South Sudan. When I said 4 million, everybody will be like, what are you talking about?
Why didn't we see this on the front page of the New York Times?
Simply because the media is not there. The media is not interesting when the black person being slaughtered by a person who call himself an Arab. This is very sad. But that's the only thing. So for me, what Israel has done to us, any single Southern Sudanese will never forget that.
And that includes, Simon, the independence itself in 2011?
Independence of Southern Sudan in 2011, credit goes, into my opinion, to the President George W. Bush, whom I call a dear friend to the people of Southern Sudan. He's the person who promised me that...
Promised me
in Oval Office in the White House. I will do everything to bring peace between the Northern Sudanese and the Southern Sudanese, because the government of Sudan, they admit that the slavery exists, including the President Omar al-Bashir admitted, including...
Who was himself a war criminal.
Yes, including Dr. Hassan al-Turabi, he admit, including the Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi, they all admit to the world, even to the Ted couple at
Nightline,
ABC. Right. Here in the US, admit that slavery exists in Sudan, and they blame the war. They blame slavery on the war. This is the government.
So, but George Bush was no longer president in 2011, but you're saying he laid the foundation?
He laid the foundations.
And then during the Barack Obama administration, why you're shaking your head?
Blind eye.
Blind eye.
Blind eye. The peace was being made by George W. Bush, led by Colin Powell, led by Senator Dan Danforth. These are the two individuals.
Senator Danforth, a Republican from Missouri.
These are the two individuals was assigned by the president that the peace have to be made between the Northern Sudanese and the Southern Sudanese to end the slavery of the African by the Arabs in that country.
Okay, so I'm coming back now to your total identification with Israel, the release of the hostages. If I'm not mistaken, Simon, in the weekly march on Sundays in Central Park, you're there.
I'm there every day.
You're there every Sunday.
In fact, not even that. I started here in the Times Square by myself.
So again, explain to JBS viewers who are going to be eager to know why such a profound commitment that you've traveled to Israel 13 times, that every Sunday you're marching for Israel, that you're walking around the streets wearing a Star of David, which could trigger some reaction, some aggression perhaps. Why this strong feeling for Israel?
David, when I was a slave, nobody was there for me. Today, I'm not longer a slave. I'm lucky to be here, to sit with you here in a beautiful Gross Mosaic, New York City, where I can use my freedom to be the voice of those whom are not free. When we come across what happened on October 7th, to me it was not a surprise. October 7th, to me, it was happened in Southern Sudan all my life.
So you saw history repeating itself.
It brought everything back. When I see people being slaughtered, people being burned, that happened in Southern Sudan.
And you saw it with your own eyes?
I saw with my own naked eyes.
I see.
It wasn't something new. I was sitting in my rooms, knowing that they came for me first, now they're coming for the Jewish community. And now what will I do? Yes, the catastrophe, the genocide took place where innocent babies, the same thing that happened in Southern. When I talk about 4 million, we're not talking about 4 million, all of them are grown-up people. Kids, including innocent, vulnerable, helpless, disabled people being burned in their houses alive in Southern Sudan. That's exactly October 7th mean to me. So when that happened, I have to find a way to go to Israel, not to go to solve the problem, because I will not have a solution in my hand, but to go to Israel in solidarity. At least if I come across to one of the family, I will hold them and say, to tell them, to let them know, you are not alone. I'm with you. I feel your pain because I have been there. I know what you're going through because my family went through what you guys went through. And this is the most important for the world community at large. When Hitler, before his campaign, the hate against the Jews in Europe was visible in the eyes of everybody. But nobody did anything. When you ignore evils, the evil win. Yet, because the world did nothing, everybody didn't say anything. Hitler did what he did, and he slaughtered innocent people. October 7, in my eyes, it was the second Holocaust to the Jewish community at large. And when I see the Jewish community is being attacked here, being attacked there, here even in New York, in everywhere, in Australia, in South Africa, wherever you name it, all these things happen in the entire North Africa on this community. Take the entire North Africa at large. The Jewish community was part and partial of the community of those countries. Where are they today? And today in 25th century, with what we have, that the world has come together, how can we become and adopted what has been adopted before and turn a blind eye when a single community is being singled out? The community which has contributed even to the human civilization in this world and being targeted before and that's why I'm saying enough is enough. I have to stand and I have to be voice. I went to Israel and I walked from Tel Aviv all the way to Jerusalem, not necessarily to solve the problem, but to tell them I'm here visible for you. And I want everybody in the world today to say that enough is enough. We have to put an end of this hatred. We have to put an end by singling out, if we want peace to one another, we want peace including the Jewish community because they did nothing wrong to anyone.
I have to say, one of the most powerful statements I've heard, Simon, and I can only hope that what you just said will be shown far and wide, and not just on television networks, but in the White House, in the Congress, in parliaments. And I want to thank you as well because my wife was one of those Jews in North Africa. My wife was from Libya. You mentioned Libya earlier. She was born and raised in Libya. It's another story, but today there are no Jews, none in Libya. They had lived...
Because the world did nothing and everybody did nothing.
Exactly. And the Jews, by the way, had long preceded the Arab invasion and conquest and occupation of North Africa. But you used the word genocide. And then you spoke about indifference during the Second World War. What we have today, in a way, is even more shocking. We don't have just indifference, we have an inversion. We have Israel being accused of the very genocide that it's experiencing. We have students at our best universities, including Columbia University and others, saying, no, there is genocide, but the Jews are committing genocide.
Nonsense.
How do we get into such a situation, Simon?
Nonsense.
And how do you react to that?
You see, it is very simple. For any person who never saw or never experienced the hardships and the atrocity being committed with them, yet they can say whatever they're saying, especially when you're dealing with the society which is grown up ignorance with the social media by just grabbing what somebody said and then because let's face it, October 7, was it triggered by any person in Israel? If that's the case, then why everybody should not come together and say that what you did in October 7, it was a genocide. And indeed, that's where the genocide is. Leave out that. You cannot come and take all my kids and go put them under your feet in your house and assuming that I will not look for them. You cannot come and take my loved ones and bury them on the ground and you telling me that I will not come and look for them. What is the common sense here? In other words, if there is any person who is an evil who committed the genocide, it is a terrorist. If there is anybody who have to be blamed by all of us in the world, is the head of the evil's terrorist, which is Iran. Iran was part, and in fact, if anything, all these things happen, the blame have to be in the head of the mullahs in Iran. The other one who give Hezbollah all the weapons to do the evil act. The other one who arm Hamas to go and do the evil act. By the way, why the world have forgotten? When the Nobel Peace was being given to Yasser Arafat and so on, because of in the name of peace. And this is my message to my fellows, Arab community and the world community. Thank God, David, today we have people in the Arab world, in the Islamic world, coming out for the first time. And I will encourage all of them, because we have to move away from the system of hating one another. It is not doing good to a child. It is not doing good for a child to be taught how to hate somebody. A child is a novel. Take a Palestinian kid today and put it to China. Tomorrow she or he will be a beautiful Chinese kid.
Are Arab children in Khartoum, Sudan today being taught to hate?
Well, the models in Khartoum, it is different. It is different. But within those who have the mentality of this issue of Islam by mixing, and this is what I said one time, I never seen a religion kill a person. But I saw somebody, I saw a human being burn my huts, burn people's alive, slaughter people. I see somebody took a knife and cut somebody's throat and said, Allahu Akbar, which is God is great. To me, that is an evil. And I want all the people within the Islamic community, good people of them, to reject it, all this hatred, by using their good religion to commit it, the evil act.
I see.
They have to distance themselves. And if they do that, the world that we're in will be a beautiful world today.
I can only hope so. We have just a minute or so left. I'm going to ask you a big question, but needing a short answer. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, calls you and says, Simon, I've been following you. I admire you. Tell me the one or two things that I need to be focusing on today as President of the United States that can help Israel and help the situation. What's your quick advice to the President of the United States?
President Donald Trump, to me, will end down in the history books as a great president, the way one we have the mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani. He's the great president and he's the good president. He's the man who always do what he said. He's the man.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. He's the man who won peace in the world. He's the man who won advocates and bringing out, and the world have to support this man.
So you trust Donald Trump's instincts here. But you mentioned Rudy Giuliani. I didn't understand.
When he correct New York from New York. Then.
But now we face a new problem in New York.
That's a different story. I think that will be another topic that we have to deal with it.
Let's return to that topic. But you share a concern about Zohran Mamdani as a potential mayor of New York? You're worried.
Big worried.
You are worried.
Big worried. Somebody who identifies himself to the New Yorkers, he's a radicals, the social radical Democrat. Radicals.
Radical.
The word radical, any New Yorker should run away from it.
Simon, we're going to have to end on that note with your vote of confidence in President Trump and your vote of lack of confidence in the possible next mayor. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, David.
Simon, you're a very special person. JBS viewers, I hope and trust you'll agree. You just experienced a very special conversation with Simon Deng. Please look him up, learn more about him, follow him. This is David Harris, defending Israel, and looking forward to seeing you again next week.